Hello and welcome back to Building Momentum, the show where we peel back the curtain on the exciting and often chaotic world of building a successful SaaS business. I'm Yash, your host for this show, where every episode we bring you the stories and strategies of founders who've been in the trenches, conquering churn, scaling their teams, and building products that people and businesses love. In this episode, we'll be chatting with Christophe from Doc Analyzer. Doc Analyzer is a next-gen AI-based, reliable agentic tool that offers workflow automation, intelligent document conversations, and OCR, among other features. We're excited to hear their story and the lessons they've learned along the way. We'll be dissecting the wins, the losses, and everything in between. So buckle up, grab your headphones, and get ready to dive in the world of SaaS. Hey, Christoph, thank you for doing this. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Yash.
Oh, absolutely. Awesome. So I wanted to start, just to try and understand what's the big, bad, hairy problem, challenge that Doc Analyzer is trying to solve.
Yeah, sure. So every one of us, of course, have been very excited when ChatGPT has been launched. We are all trying to chat with the tool on doing some extraordinary stuff. On past the first dialogue on week of amazement of how much this new kind of AI has reached. The big question was what we do with that. There are, of course, generative AI. There are some evidence usage that we can think of. On the first one, where to have a summary, to generate text for SEO, to generate easy imaging for marketing and so on. But past that kind of a very simple usage, there are just a big question how we can do better than just generating image or some small piece of text. So this is what Doc Analyzer is about, is to explore specifically in the domain of documentations of documents. When you have huge amounts of documents, what you can do with AI, generative AI, that is a bit more simple, a bit more complex than just having a summary or having a conversation, a chat with the document. So we are trying to create agents that can replace you in your work if you work in the domain of documents. There are many people who are working with documents. You have accountants, they are working with invoices. You have architects, they are working with the construction permit. You have lawyers who are working with contracts. On all of them, they have already their kind of workflow. They do nearly the same kind of things every day. So the goal here is to try to understand for each of these power user of documents processes that could be simplified and be done by AI agent instead of them. And if we succeed in that endeavor, of course, we are going to save a lot of time for all these people. So that free the time to do something else.
So like most SaaS products fall in either of these three categories, whether they are like either they are saving time, saving money, or helping the customer make more. So would you sort of, if you had to put Doc Analyzer as a part of into one of those boxes, would you categorize that as we're in the business of saving time?
Totally, we totally on that category without any.
Got it. Understood. So tell us a little about the journey of building this, right? How did you start? How long has it been? What's the size and scale of operations where we are today? What's the status quo like? The idea behind this is just so that you have a little more context, is the idea behind understanding this about Doc Analyzer is for the audience, for the people who are watching or listening to this. They will be able to put everything that you're about to say in that context, right? That this is where the product or the platform is as on next.
So you're asking about how I get to this idea to build the Doc Analyzer. I get it right?
Yeah. So how did you decide to build it, and then where is it today?
Yeah. So basically, I'm an IT guy. I've been doing IT all my life. Been created a few companies already all my life in many sector of IT, open source, more recently in blockchain. I've been CTO also in many companies which I've not created. So I get this kind of depth about IT. On when the generative AI came out, I was totally trying to find the right sector of that particular new trend in IT. I should pick up to try to bring my own solution. So I chose document because it's kind of it's kind of the both easy way to start with it, because I mean of course the simple application is just what we call RAG in AI talk. Is just you take a document and you take, for example, GPT of OpenAI, and you just put the context of the document and you just chat with it. You give the context to the AI, on you can have conversations. But then when you start to go a bit further, of course, there are lots of complications into that. So this is where my experience of having created companies before and having created SaaS before is of course very useful. And then it came up to the simple recipe of finding a good niche to start with, on something not too wide. Otherwise, you need to solve a problem for some people. So you need to define who you are, who is your customer you are going to help, and really try to focus on that problem. So even if we didn't got that clear visions 1 year ago when we started, the more we talk to our customer, we took a lot with the customers. It's very important. If there is something that you should not do, is not to talk with your customer. So I'm still answering most of the support question myself, even if I get some help with some stuff which are more evident sometimes, because this is where you learn the most actually. You listen to them and you listen to their problem and say, oh yeah, sure, I can help you this way. And then it gives you, of course, you are going to help one customer this week, but it also gives you idea how you are going to change your business, on put new feature online for the months to come. So that's very important.
Got it. And where are we today, right? In terms of the size and scale of Doc Analyzer. How big is the team? How many customers do we have?
Sure.
How many docs have
So
we
we're still kind of a small startup. We start last year, built from scratch in the spring. We launched in July. There was a slow start, which is totally normal. People should not, by the way, it's something important maybe for your listener. You should not be discouraged because at the first weeks of the first month, or when you start to put the product online, there are very, very few customers. To be honest, during the last summer, there was nearly no one using our tool because no one knew we exist, as simply as that. So, but then when you start to get people on the word of mouth start to propagate, you can pick up quite fast actually. So at this stage, we are a small team of five people. 2 developer, 1 marketing, 1 designer, on myself, and we gain kind of about 100 customer a month, which is still a modest amount of customer. It's not, but it's interesting to accumulate them, and then your game is going to make them satisfied. Working hard on the churn rate, so. Every person that gives up, that says to you, okay, I want to unsubscribe, to cancel my subscription, you should go after them, not so much to save them, because most probably they already got the idea and you're not going to save them, but you need to understand the reason why they are leaving. Because then this is where you can fix your tool, not for them, but for the next customer that there is less reason to leave. Or you will always have some people who leave because they could have money crush, or they could change their job. They could, maybe the need for the tool doesn't exist anymore. So it's totally perfectly normal to have some churn rate. But this is something which is very important too.
No, fair point, because as much as retention is important for a SaaS product, it's also important to understand why is churn happening, right? So why are people, in whatever percentage, is it just revenue churn or is it customer churn as well? So like, is the usage decreasing, or is the number of users also decreasing? How many people are there who have active subscriptions but are not active users, so that they will churn in the next few weeks or months or quarters? it's just that they've not looked at their credit card statements yet or something like that, right? So it's extremely important to start measuring that. But one of the things that I want to touch upon, something that you mentioned early on, is that and this is a challenge that happened with me as well. And given that you built multiple businesses, it didn't happen with you with Doc Analyzer. Is that when you are building something, you tend to think that you're working on something that's extremely important, and you're getting attention from team members or the people that you're speaking to, right? So people in your family, everyone's asking you, what are you working on, what are you building, and you keep sharing about whatever it is that you're working on, and you're getting some amount of attention. As soon as the product launches, as soon as the website's up, as soon as the beta is up, you start to realize that you don't have attention, because just because you build something doesn't mean that people will start coming in or walking in. And so the amount of effort that needs to go on distribution channels, the amount of effort that needs to go into engaging with prospects or whatever the go-to-market channels are, is almost as important as building a solution. And so that also brings me to my next question, which is like, how do you at Doc Analyzer think of your go-to-market as a strategy, right? So how do you define your customer, and then how do you go after it, right? So what are the channels that you use? What are the experiments that you created that worked or that didn't work? About that as a journey where we are acquiring. I think you mentioned one customer a month, right? So what are the channels that you're trying to use?
100 customer a month. Yeah. Not so our typical user would be a power user, someone who is a bit in all this category. We spoke about accountant, lawyer, and so on. You always have in these categories a smaller category which is very familiar with IT. Which is kind of always trying the new tools, the new way to handle their
Like the early
specific,
adopters.
yeah, early adopters. So clearly that would be this power user early adopter that clearly our audience right now, because we are still a new things. And by the way, this relates to the churn rate, because I noticed that for people who get disappointed by the tool, most of the time is related to the fact that it's complex to understand what AI can bring to you. And sometimes it's complex, even if you kind of chat with it, and it's much more natural than older interface, because it's still a natural language. You're addressing the computer with a natural language. There are ways to talk with LLM which are not exactly the same like I would talk to you, for example. Because they have very short context window, and they have some quirks, and some people get fast into this way of making the most of addressing with LLM, and some people just don't understand so well, and they could be frustrated very fast, and they can start to argue with the LLM, which of course doesn't bring any solution to their problem, and so on. So the frustration can mount very fast with this kind of interface. So the way we do acquisition for at this time is two ways. The first way is SEO, because this is something which is very important for us. And the second way, and we are just starting with that, is going to use influencer marketing on training, making some video training, which are promoted by influencer in the subgroup that we define that could potentially be our customer. We don't do paid marketing at this stage because it's just too expensive, in our opinion. But that's the stage for the growth we are in now, which is still early. We of course will change that strategy later on as we
got it. And so I also saw on your website, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier in the conversation was also the fact that anyone who works very heavily with documents are one of the prospects or possible customers, right? So people who are in HR, people who are in admin, people who are lawyers, accountants, and so on and so forth. Within that, right? So as a founder, if I'm building a product that appeals to, let's say, 2 or 3 different definitions of ideal clients, what are your thoughts, or how are you going about it at Doc Analyzer? Where are you saying that we analyze documents for everyone who needs it, or are you one of those where you say that okay, we'll do we'll go niche down on a particular ICP segment, like acquire a very large chunk of a very small market and do that extremely well from a product standpoint? Or are you hedging your bets in the sense that, okay, I may have smaller parts of, but 3 or 4 different markets, so that you're not sort of risking yourself basis a particular market scenario changing, and you're sort of a platform that appeals to 4 or 5 different definitions of ICPs. What do you sort of go after?
Yeah, we define ourselves as a specialist for documents, and indeed
Hmm.
it could apply to many kind of many kind of businesses. But we focus though on small and medium businesses. That's very important.
Hmm.
On
Got it.
and also we geographically speaking we mostly target the US customer base, but
Yeah.
even though we also have customer all over the place, people who speak English, because we don't put so much effort at this stage
Yeah.
to localize our interface, for example.
Yeah.
This is not something we are interested at the moment. We prefer to
Yeah.
go the features on stuff on
Hmm.
when we get to the point where our feature is more stable, maybe that would make some sense to do some localizations, but not at this stage. So that's these two strategy we have. Specialist of document for the English speaking market.
Correct. And so another thing that I want to understand from a product management standpoint, right? And pricing a little bit as well. So there are a couple of ways that you can have, like a cost-based pricing or a value-based pricing, or just competitor benchmarking and stuff like that. Given that AI and everything that AI enables is so new and so early that almost everybody is working on categories that didn't exist, right? Because they are or categories that existed, but they're making that significantly more efficient and effective, right? So in those cases, like, and I also saw that you have a very generous free plan. How have you thought about pricing for Doc Analyze? Right? What are the kind of experiments that you are running, or is it
Sure,
let's see what
sure.
happens? Can you talk a little about that?
Sure, of course. So we start even with a cheaper price than we have now, because we
Okay.
start with when we launched the basic plan was only $4 on the pro plan was $8, so very very
Mm-hmm.
cheap indeed. And we had a generous free plan also. Now we raise that a bit because it's now $6 on $12 respectively for basic
Mm-hmm.
and pro plan. But there's also some package you can buy during the subscription if you are
Yeah.
using expensive models, or
Mm-hmm.
if you are using expensive features like OCR and so on, because it's just impossible to have a sustainable business if we pay a lot on this
Yeah.
little subscription coming in. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to be as cheap as we can, because I don't want to restrict too much the small independent crowd that for which the pricing is very important. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
yet target so much enterprise plans. We will
Got
open
it.
that in the probably this autumn,
Mm-hmm.
because usually it's better to have these independent small businesses. We don't think too much when the plan is cheap to buy, because enterprise, they have a sale process which is a bit different. Of course, they can pay much more money per month, but
Yeah.
it's also very the acquisition time is much longer. It's not 8 seconds; it can be several months.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
complexify a lot of things. Um, also you need to have sometimes certifications. They want this stamp about
Yeah.
security.
Yeah.
This is costly. So
Yeah.
it's better. My advice for founder is to wait a bit before going chasing enterprise, because you risk spending a lot of time on the calls, many
Yeah.
calls, and at the
Yeah.
end they will refuse you because you are just too small yet. So you need
Yeah.
to grow a bit to look a bit more
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
tiger than a cat
I've
to
been
be.
there, and it's just extremely difficult because just filling out like vendor onboarding or filling out their RFP or RFQs, that in and of itself is a 2 or 3 day activity for founders, because there are questions that you have not thought about your
Yeah.
own product, right? And then there are things that you also don't understand. So you essentially have to start and go on a journey of understanding what are they talking about, what are they asking for, and then sort of and then it's like even the journey of decision making is extremely long. Like there are multiple people, there are decision makers and champions and influencers and
It's
everything,
hard to
right?
get
So
there. It's
it's
hard to
very
get there
hard.
at the beginning. I've been living that also in other startup which are
Yeah,
bigger
yeah,
on I saw also the process. So I know it's a bit too soon. And I receive very great email from big organizations say, "Oh, we love the organizer. We want to use it for 200 users," which is great. But the
yeah,
problem is that you can still answer the call to
yeah,
have some uh, preview of what they could need. But even if the person the champion that loves you, loves the product, there's still a lot of green light that need
yeah,
to pass on green
yeah,
later on the process, the chain of command before it
yeah,
works. So
yeah,
that's complex indeed.
yeah.
So yeah, we focus on this small business enterprise for now, on making them happy. I mean, this is the key point of every business.
Hmm.
Make at maximum the maximum customer happy. There will be some
Yeah.
unhappy, of course, but this is the
Yeah,
goal.
no, absolutely. That sort of puts it very simply, right? So just the like as many people as possible who are using your product, if they are happy, there's nothing more that they expect, right? From customer support, from product, from usage, from whatever urgent, important, frequent use case that they have. Right? So interesting. So Christoph, this brings us towards the end of our conversation, and so one of the things that we typically end our conversations with is I ask you a question that was asked by a previous founder, which is something that they are
Hmm.
currently trying to solve for at their organization, and then we'll hear your question as well. But so this question is from Zach, who runs a platform called It's Dart, and Dart is basically an AI enabled project management platform where they are building agents who are like people who can also accomplish certain low level tasks, right? And over a period of
Hmm.
time, those agents will get better as well. But think of it as a project management system where you have people and you also have agents, and you're assigning tasks to people as well as agents, right? And that's how you're working on your day to day. One of the questions that he has, that he's trying to currently fix, is given that they're trying to build something that doesn't exist in its final form or in its mature form yet, it's very early stage. How, in a very small team, right? So they're a team of 10 people. How do they make a decision on what to work on, right? So do they work on things that their customers are asking today, or should they work on things that they want to build, which is where they want to take Dart, which is the direction that they want to take Dart in, right? So in the fight, and I'm sure this must be happening with you as well at Doc Analyzer, is in the fight between building faster horses or building a car, what do you sort of go after, right? So because a customer is not going to be able to imagine the things that are possible.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yes,
what are your thoughts on that?
it's a very tricky question actually. On every team or every SaaS has the same problem indeed. My take on that is I try to do both, meaning
Mm-hmm,
that I take all this input from customer as a potentially feature they want, and kind of take it half. So half I just put aside because for several reasons. They could
mm-hmm,
be too complex to implement for the potential number of users that want them. So you
yeah,
have to sacrifice sometimes. I mean, you cannot make
yeah,
everyone happy at the same time.
yeah,
Maybe later, but not at this
yeah,
time. Some are just bad idea, in my opinion, because they are making the product illogic because they need
mm-hmm,
to be some coherence. If you only take
mm,
user input, because there are different users, you may end up with an animal with that head of a lion on the back of a rhinoceros on the
yeah,
on the legs of a tortoise. So it cannot maybe not totally make sense. So I just select this half of the feature that user want that could work in my strategy, basically, because I have my strategy, but so I will amend my own strategy with the feature that user wants. So I still want to go nearly the same visions I want, this notion of AI agents that are super smart about documents, but I would make some detour to make happy in the meantime the customer. So there are some satisfactions ripping down the software.
It's so funny, the image of a lion's head on a rhino's body with legs of a turtle. Right? So that's nice. So what's the question, Christophe, that you have? Right? What's something that you are currently trying to solve for at Doc Analyzer that we should ask our next guest?
Yeah. So my question would be, in what time do we have? Simply because we are still in the old way of doing SaaS. Of course, this new AI, knowing that we are all waiting for AGI that may obsolete us all. So the simple question, like, what's your take on the date every classical recipe to build a startup and
Got it. That's an interesting one. I would love to see my next guest struggle to try and answer that question. That's
yeah. I will watch to see that also.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for this question, and thank you for joining in and answering all of my questions. And thank you to everyone, all the people who joined in, whether you were watching or listening on YouTube or Amazon Music or Spotify, wherever you are, you'll be able to find the link to Doc Analyzer in the description. If you work with a lot of documents and if you want to save time, you want to automate certain workflows, you want to have conversations with your documents, I strongly recommend you go ahead and check out docanalyzer.ai. Do give it a try. And thank you everyone for joining in. We'll see you until next time.
Thank you.